Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Meet Me in Napa. Thank you for all the positive responses, all the DMs and text messages and calls I've been getting. I'm just so glad that I can bring some great content to the Napa Valley. Today, I have been so blessed to be in the company of a very, very special guest here. She's been doing a lot of amazing things out here in the Valley.
Yeah.
A woman of color, all these things, right? Just breaking down barriers and doors, and she's just been so grateful to extend her time to me today, Miss Leilani Baugh.
Thank you.
Chef Leilani. Lele. What else they call you?
Lele from the Bay.
Lele from the Bay. Yeah. What else they call you? Any other nicknames? That's it. Okay. So if you hear me, I'm gonna call you Chef because that's just how I've always talked to you. That's Chef. And great food, by the way, right?
Thank you.
But we'll get into all that. So thank you for coming. How you doing
today?
today?
Having me. I'm super.
You're super.
Yeah, it's a little early, but yeah. And to think I was trying to get here earlier, and I was like,
yeah, I know. And you were like, let's do it. I'm like, push it out about another hour. Yeah. But anyways, thank you. I would have met you at 6 a.m. if that's the time you had.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I want to make sure that you were one of the people that I really, really wanted on when I was starting this journey. And I'm so glad that you said yes. And I always say to all my guests, either at the end or the beginning of the interview, these first group of people are my most important guests. And I don't care to whatever heights this podcast goes to or whoever is famous or big in my eyes, you guys are my most important guests because you guys said yes to me at the beginning of my journey and you took a chance on me. So I'm thankful for that.
Oh, thank you. Because I was like, you want to talk to me? I just pour wine and cook for a living, but okay, I'll come talk to you.
Yeah. You're going to hear way more than that by the end of this conversation. But I mean, you're an innovator. You're a barrier breaker. You're a lot of things, and so yes, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to people like that. I had a conversation and I tell people there are people who are famous and then there are people who are Napa famous. And Napa has its own celebrity circle, right here in the Valley. But you gotta either it because you're into the industry or you live here, right? And there's just people like, oh yeah, I know him or I know her, And to me, you're Napa famous,
Oh, thank you. That's a little step up from being hood famous.
Yeah. Right. You know what I mean? So tell us about your journey. Tell us about who you are and what you've done and just where were you raised? How were you living? Who is Leilani?
Oh, man. That's 53 years worth of information. We're going to be here for a long time. Well, I was born and raised in Oakland.
Okay.
I am the only child of a Chinese mother and a black father.
Okay.
Black and German. And then I personally have 3 sons, 3 grandsons, and 1 granddaughter.
Aww.
So we have a nice little chunky family going on there. And I've always lived in Oakland. I've lived in the Bay most of the time. I live in Oakland now.
Okay.
So I commute when I'm here in the Valley. And what else? I like to cook.
How did you get into cooking? So you lived in Oakland. How did the journey into who you became chef? How did that journey begin? Like where was your love for that?
Well, I got the love for cooking from my 2 grandmothers, right? So my black grandmother, Willie Mae, is the one who taught me how to make sweet potato pie and greens and all the soul food, and then my Chinese grandmother taught me how to speak Cantonese or what we call Hoi San. And, I learned how to get fresh fish and fresh chicken and meats and stuff like that from the markets because we used to go to Chinatown every day. And from as long as I can remember, I've always been in the kitchen with both of them. So either I was washing greens for my grandmother 10 times to get off all the sand.
I do remember. I remember my grandmother when I was a kid and those greens be in the sink and you see the little bugs because she used to grow them in the backyard. So you see all the little bugs. I used to be like, ugh, but yeah, that was just childhood memory of mine.
It was horrible. It was horrible. I'd be like, what is that in the water? She'd be like, that's why you got to wash them 10 times. And I'm like, do I have to wash them 10 times? And I've always been really weird. So I don't like to touch anything. So I've been wearing gloves since I was 4. Because I'm like, I'd get her dishwashing gloves and I would be, washing the greens. But so between the two of them, they're the ones that taught me that food is a love language. It's how you show the people that you love and care about that you love and care about them. It is a way to bring people together in terms of family. If there's an issue or there's a conversation that needs to be had with a family member, what do?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
bring them over for dinner and
Go
you
take 'em
talk
to
to
get something
them.
to eat, yeah.
Right.
I do that with
So,
my kids all the time. When I got something deep to say, we're like, let's go get something to eat.
yeah.
They know. So you have this like very unique experience with food growing up because you have two separate cultures and they're both like hands on with the process with you, right? So the washing and with your she's Chinese, you said?
So Willie Mae is black.
Willie
so
Mae's
she's
black,
the one that
yeah.
had me washing the greens. Joan was my Chinese grandmother.
Chinese, right.
And we'd be soaking banana leaves for sticky rice. They're basically the same as tamales, but it's sticky rice. And then it has like pork and beans and stuff inside of it. So it's really yummy.
Sounds delicious.
Yummy.
So how did that, so from that place, I mean, this is just your everyday life. So you weren't thinking, were you thinking as a kid, I want to grow up and cook? Like,
No.
How did your love for cooking, how did your journey come into that part?
Well, I had no choice to learn to cook between the two of them. And actually what they started doing as I got a little bit older, about 8, I went to go I stopped living with my dad's mom with Willie Mae. And I actually lived with Joan. So, and my mom. So,
And how old were you?
About 8.
About 8. Okay.
Yeah. And, it was always, like I said, it was always, just natural. This is what we're doing. We're cooking. My grandmother would cook for the church, so she'd be cooking for days on end, and then my other grandmother's like, oh, your aunties are coming home this weekend, so we're gonna make some, ribs and, stuff like that. The Chinese food, right?
And were they in Oakland as well?
Everybody was in Oakland.
Was in Oakland.
Everybody
Okay,
was in Oakland.
Okay. Was it east, west?
One
North?
grandmother lived off of Lakeshore.
Okay.
So central
Okay.
Oakland. And then my Chinese grandmother lived in West Oakland.
Okay.
So
okay.
literally around the corner from my old restaurant.
Okay.
On Magnolia. So that's why
I know what that is.
that's why I called the restaurant Magnolia Street.
Oh, that makes sense.
So that's where I grew up.
Okay.
And so my uncle, Doug, he owned restaurants. And we would work there during the summers and stuff like that. And I never really wanted to cook outside of just for family. And then I watched him literally, like, he'd get up at, 3 in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning, so he could go to his restaurant and prep. He was always in bed by 7 o'clock, missing out on all the family fun. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that life.
Yeah.
So it never really occurred to me to want to go to culinary school or to cook. I literally just cooked for friends and family.
Okay. And so this decade of like, you were in the 80s, you said when you were 8, like what year was that? Like,
so I was the 80s.
That was the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So explain that part, 80s Oakland. Like, I know there's been documentary. I mean, everybody listens to, Too Short. We all know. But what was your experience like in 80s Oakland?
80s
Oakland as a mixed kid.
80s Oakland was so dope. Like, because I feel bad for my kids because they never had that, right? So like we were literally the epitome of, I got to come home till the lights come on, right? Outside. And it was just like everyone knew each other. You couldn't do anything bad down the street because Miss Paula's going to call your mama. And, it's just like, it was a whole different type of child rearing, because it really was a village back then. And then Oakland was just so dope. It was just so vibrant. And it had, such a rainbow of people and cultures. And it, it's still one of the main reasons why people want to live here is because it's supposed to have all this culture.
Yeah.
And through time, that culture's been stripped away to what we currently have.
Yeah.
Which is, as much as it's tried to be revitalized, it just seems like Oakland keeps getting hit.
Yeah.
You know.
You have to, like, all the sports teams leave, and it's just bad, bad mismanagement. But
you got a mayor facing 95 years
yeah,
in jail.
yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
So it's hard to recover from stuff like that.
My dad, he used to always go to Flint's was in Oakland, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time we were in San Francisco in the 80s.
Okay.
Before my parents moved up to Fairfield, but prior to that, my dad, he used to work in Oakland. He used to drive trucks, like, you know how people doing the cases in the local liquor stores and stuff for Coca-Cola and stuff, like 7-Up. So he used to drive around. So I know on Friday nights he used to always come home with some barbecue
with some Flints.
Yeah,
that was my grandfather's favorite barbecue.
Juicy. Come home, he had those ribs, man. I used to love Flints, man.
That was like really good barbecue.
That was great barbecue. Yeah.
Like my grandmother and my grandfather are very picky, and they loved Flints. So that would be a little treat.
Yeah.
It was.
I didn't even know. It was just kind of the norm for me. But as I got older and it was like it's not around anymore, I was appreciating it in my adulthood more, because it was like it was a routine for him, But I used to, like, now I'm like, man, I wish I had some Flints.
I think the son and the daughter do catering.
Okay.
I did something with I did some kind of festival with them for Ibaldi.
Okay.
Because I guess their tenants, they have a space in one of the Ibaldi East Bay Association of Asian something. They're like a developer, so they own like half of Oakland.
Oh, okay.
Like they own all
dope.
of Chinatown and all the new buildings that are popping up everywhere. They own those. A very good company, though. I would say that.
Yeah. That's dope. Yeah, I hope I can. Anyways, I don't want to digress. So you're cooking. You're 8. You slept. You go to your grandmother's house, your Asian grandmother's house, and now you're there. You're developing. You're living in Oakland. When does the journey for you to start to become a chef in your professional life?
Not until I would say probably. Maybe about, I started my catering company 14 years ago. Okay. So probably about 16, 17 years ago. Okay. And basically what happened was, my husband, I was always cooking for people. And a friend of mine, God rest his soul, he was a former police commissioner for San Francisco. Okay. And he was like, hey, I want you to do my birthday party. And I was like, okay. And I've always been in hospitality. So I was an event planner. I was a wedding planner. So I was always around food because I had to hire caterers, or I had to do tastings at the different, venues and stuff like that. So food was still there, but I wasn't cooking it except for at home. Okay. And I was very okay with that. Which is why my poor husband suffers so much now, because I'm not home that often to cook. So I cook on Mondays and Tuesdays at home. But, and basically Julius was like, so I want you to do my party. And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I'll get the linens, I'll help you with the party invitation. He's like, no, I want your food. And I was like, I'm not a caterer. And he was like, I know, but it's just a couple people. So, and I really want your breakfast, because you make really good breakfast, because, cooking for friends, right? So I was like, fine, but I'm not a caterer, so you can't expect amazing things, right? Because I'm a home cook. And I always tell people that I'm a home cook. I didn't go to culinary school. Yeah. So I really didn't, no one really started calling me chef until 2015. And I was like, who are you talking to? You talking to me? Oh, okay.
And now that's your permanent moniker now.
I know. I'm just like, I'm Leilani. And they're like, oh, chef.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
You do that to me all the time. I just bullied you like, no, I don't want to call you Leilani. I'm calling you chef.
Like, my name is Leilani. And so a couple days before his party, we had worked out a menu and stuff, and I was okay with it because I'm thinking it's going to be like 10 people. And then he called and he goes, it's like 50 people, and then hangs up the phone. So I was like, what? It's like 50 people? I told you I'm not a caterer. And he's like, it's fine. I'll give you more money. You'll be okay.
He knew your gift. You just
he
didn't
knew
know
it.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. Like, when ain't nobody, I don't even hear what you're talking about.
Right. That's why I hung up in your face. So we'll see you in a couple days. And I was like, oh my God. So I gathered up one of my really good friends. She was like, we could do this. This is easy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, because she's a home cook too. So we did it. We knocked it out of the park. Everybody loved the food. And then that was in November, September, November, like that was the fall going into winter. And then Black History Month was coming. So in January, I started getting all these calls from people I did not know. And they were like, I met you at Julius's house and my firm is having Black History Month and, you know, a Black History celebration. I mean, there's only 10 of us here in the firm, but we want to have a Black History celebration. Can you cook or can you cater it? And I was like, okay, okay. And it was like, so it's for 100 people. And I'm like, okay. So I like literally killed my personal at home because I didn't know anything about commercial kitchens. I didn't know anything. So I was cooking I was cooking at home.
At home, yeah.
And my husband was like, so yeah, we need a new stove because you didn't kill this one.
Out.
This one, it don't even work anymore. Like, what is
this is made for a family of 4.
Right. This is it. You know? And I was like, oh man, this is not great. So started catering for all these companies and it just went. And then I talked to Julius and he goes, guess what? I said, what? He was like, you're a caterer now?
Yeah.
I was like, damn you.
You're like, did you just choose my life?
Yeah, pretty much. And then when I was catering, you know, my husband kept saying, you're going to get a restaurant. And I was like, no, I don't want a restaurant. I don't want that life, you know, because I didn't take breakfast orders because I don't like to get up super early. You know, and so I only did stuff that I wanted to do. So like if I wasn't feeling you, it was like, I'm busy.
You kind of still like that now.
I'm not supposed to tell the people. I'm not telling you any of my secrets anymore.
If I can't keep it real with you, who can I keep it real with?
You know, I look at the phone. It's so bad. Because I look at the emails and it's just like, I want to know if you can cater my birthday. And I just be like, do you though? Are you sure you want me? Because in my older age, I am not that great.
Yeah, you get when you get more older we get, the more we're just like less tolerant for BS we got, you know. If I don't want to deal with you, I just don't want to deal with you. I don't have to like have to have a 30 million excuses. I just don't.
I just don't.
And you should be okay with that.
I don't. Yeah. You know, but I feel bad too because I am sympathetic sometimes though, and I'm like, damn. You know, it's something when, you know, a family like. Unfortunately, a lot of my catering business is repasts. But at the same time, it's comforting knowing, like I've done the repast for multiple family members in the same family.
Wow.
So like they know auntie somebody died. Yeah. Y'all better call Leilani.
Yeah.
You know, and so I do get a lot of those calls. So you did my sister's repast. Well, now her husband's passed, you know, and so.
Quick question.
Like
I know you were talking about, you said it was your uncle who had the restaurants when you were young and you saw him getting up. You're like, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Was that the only reason? I feel like there was something else of why you were trying to avoid that life of cooking, because it seems like it's right there. Right. So was that the only thing guiding that decision?
Well, it's crazy because I'm a lot like my uncle. I don't really like people a lot. I'm very outgoing, you know, and I know how to, you know, I know how to maneuver around people, and, you know, my circle is pretty round. Like I don't have just a handful of friends. I have a bunch of friends. But I've always been pushed in social circles to do this, to do that, or, you know, speak here or cook for this person and stuff like that. But ultimately it really was, I didn't want to get up early. I didn't want to miss out because I'm be honest, I have FOMO. So I didn't want to miss out on family things. I didn't want to miss out hanging with my friends because I got to go to bed at 7:00 to get up at 2. And it was just like I watched my uncle miss out on a lot of family stuff, you know, and so I didn't want that.
So this is a thought that just came to me. You saw your uncle doing that, and you were like, you didn't want to miss out. Now I'm going to ask you: is what you've been doing, is it worth it? Has what cooking and the events and being able to be there in people's most, you know, time of need and the connections and the love and you know, just because it seems like you sound like people have always been drawing out you because you have something to give that they value. I don't know if you see it that way, but as we're talking, I'm hearing that, like, I feel like people oftentimes, you know, you have all these things I don't want to do, but oftentimes if people are constantly pulling at you and they're pulling, it's not just pulling at you, but it's when they pull at you at their time of need. It's like there's something in you that they see valuable that you have that you are maybe even running away from or have ran away from. Yeah, I don't know if you ever thought about it like that.
The other thing, I haven't thought about it like that so much. I'm an Aries, so I'm real flighty.
I don't know nothing about no signs.
Okay. Well, so like our friend Phil said, he's a Taurus, right? So I'm an Aries. One of the traits that horoscopes or that sign has is that we're flighty. And so over the years, I've done all kinds of stuff. Like I've sold cooking supplies or cookware and stuff like that. I've sold, jewelry. I've sold makeup. I switch jobs all the time. And I really just didn't want to put myself in a box.
You didn't want to be pigeonholed.
I didn't want to be pigeonholed. And I was scared that if this was something I was going to do, because I get bored real fast. And then if something happens and I don't like it, I'll just be like, I'm out. Like, y'all can have this.
So
you didn't
want to have something that wasn't easy to let go.
Yes.
Of. Okay.
And that's, that's the long and short of it. And when you ask if it's worth it, I will say that it is worth its weight in gold when a family knows that they can count on me, that they can call on me, that the food is going to be good, the service is going to be consistent, and that they feel close enough to me to know that, well, Leilani will do it. Mama wouldn't have wanted anybody else to cook but Leilani. Right. On the other hand, what it's not worth is I'm not home a lot. So, and I still am getting up at 2:00 in the morning, and I'm
everything that you said you didn't want to do.
Everything I said I didn't want to do, and it's hard. My youngest son is 14. And when you have a kid that's just like, this morning he was just like, "Why are you leaving?" And I was like, "It's Sunday." I was like, "I have an interview this morning."
Oh, I didn't take you away from the baby. See, now you're making me feel guilty.
No, he just didn't want to go to church, child. It just, okay, don't you?
Oh, he didn't want to go.
He didn't want to go to church. He did not want to go to church.
I remember them Sunday. I grew up like that.
I was in the choir. I was an altar girl, lighting the candles. I mean,
Yeah, I walked down. I gave my life to Jesus like 30 times.
Yeah, because you needed somebody. Because there weren't enough kids, so you had to do it over and over again.
Oh man!
And that's the only thing I don't like is being away from my kid. And it's just like, but at the same time, I love doing what I do. So even though we've closed the restaurant, so shortly after Julius's thing, I opened the first restaurant, which was in Jack London Square.
What year was that?
That was 2008, 2017.
Okay.
I've learned about commercial kitchens.
Real fast?
Real fast.
Yeah.
As my friend said, it's against the law for you to be cooking at home. And I was like, I'm just cooking. And they're like, yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was doing a lot of pop-ups. So what ended up happening is a young lady kept coming to my pop-up, and she approached me. And by this time I was deep into the commercial kitchen because I all of a sudden from a repast got my ESPN contract. So I was doing the food for all of the employees for ESPN during playoffs and finals for the Warriors. So it was like,
so Steph Curry and
for
Stephen A. and all those boys were eating food, or just like the staff.
Okay, and you'll be amazed because it takes so many people to make what you see on TV. So we were feeding, like, it started out with just ESPN, and I'll never forget that call. This lady called and she's like, "Oh, my name is Christiana Bryant," and I love Christiana. Thanks, Christiana. And she was just like, "I met you at our friend Angie's repast."
Wow.
And Angela was a really good friend of mine. Like, I would sell plates out of my house and she would be sitting right there, right there. She'd collect the
Number one
money. Number one supporter. Them greens is too salty, girl. And I like, put a potato in it, But she was my number one supporter, and then she died of cancer. And the lady said, I met you at her repast. You did the food. And I said, yeah. She goes, well, we're having a hard time at the Coliseum. She was like, the food is nasty. And I've been approved to bring in a private caterer for our staff.
Wow.
So I was like, okay. And so the first time we did it, it was 50 people. Then the Warriors got on a winning streak.
Yeah, then they started killing it.
And they started killing it. And so I did the catering for ESPN for all of the home games during the playoffs and the finals.
Okay.
Then NBC TV got wind of it, and they're like, "Can you add our staff too?" And then NBA TV heard about it, and Turner heard about it. So all of the different brands that make the basketball stuff go, they all were like, "Well, why can't she just do it for all of us?"
Wow.
So I went from it was crazy.
How did that check look?
Baby, when they moved to San Francisco,
I
was mad. When they moved to San Francisco, I was mad. I was just like, you are jacking up my livelihood right now. But it was great.
You couldn't. It was just too much to go.
There's no space at Chase.
Yeah.
So
they got the big
and they have
bucks.
they have all the big corporate bucks, and there's no parking around there. So at the Coliseum, they built me a tent.
What?
So I had a tent with ovens and refrigerators and freezers, and we were doing 3 meals a day for over 300 people.
Wow.
Every home game.
Wow.
During playoffs and finals.
Yeah.
So that was a good 4-year run.
So that was really when the whole thing just like skyrocketed. I think that's around when I remember hearing about you from the games, from the foods at the game. People be talking about.
We had people trying to get into the tent.
Yeah. I bet they were.
They were like, "What kind of food? Whose food is this?" And it was just like, sorry, this is for staff, but here comes my uncle, who is a season ticket holder. Same uncle.
Oh, okay.
He's a season ticket holder for the Warriors, the Raiders, and the A's. Always has been. So the security guard comes to me, and we're like knee deep in lunch, getting ready for dinner. And the security guard comes and he goes, "There's this little Chinese man outside. He says he's your uncle." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "He wants lunch." And I was like, "Okay." And I go outside and I'm like, "Who the hell? Uncle Doug?" He was like, "Hey, you didn't tell me you were cooking today." I was like,
So he didn't know you were up there the whole time?
He didn't know. He was like,
"That's funny.
Well, I want me some lunch, dinner too."
Yeah, go whip me up something. I ain't got.
And I was like, "Okay." And then he came through the buffet line with the staff, talking to everybody. And I was like, "Lord Jesus, what is going on?"
Family, huh?
And I'll never forget, he got on me and he was just like, "You didn't snap these green beans. Ooh. You didn't clip the ends." And I was like, "Well, I was rushing, blah, 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 blah." And he was just like, "You don't, this is basically you saying you don't care about your customers. You got to take the time to do things right." And I was like, "Okay." So ever since then, I take really good care in how I'm not a good presentation person. Like, I'm not great at plating or anything like that. Right. My whole goal in life is does it taste good? And can you tell that I cared when I made it? So when I'm at home, I don't cook when I'm mad, because it's going to be.
You need to say that twice for the.
For the people in the back.
For the people in the back. Yeah, don't cook when you're angry.
Don't cook when you're angry. Especially don't cook for someone that you're angry at. Because it'll be like, my husband will tell you he'll be like, "I didn't want to say anything because I knew you were mad." And I was like, "Yeah." He was just like, "Them pork chops was hecka salty." And I was like, "Well, you didn't have to eat them." He was just like, "Okay."
Yeah, you're trying to kill him naturally with a whole bunch of salt, huh? Like, yeah.
Right. Just like, man, get on my nerves, you know.
So you have this 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 is a big deal, right? The Warriors and all the NBA. So they leave San Francisco. They go to San Francisco. You said you couldn't make it over there because they didn't have the space. So what was your pivot from that point? Because now we're about to head into COVID, right?
We're getting ready to head into COVID.
Yeah.
I took the money that I had made.
How much was that? You want to tell me? I'll cover up the mic.
A lot. It was a lot. And I also got a community. So I got a community like loan / grant, I guess.
Okay.
In 2019 to build a restaurant at Ibalsi, at one of the Ibalsi buildings.
Okay.
So I was at Bricks, and Stephanie ran the bar, I ran the food, and the two didn't mix. The two never mixed. And then it was just to a point where I had people wanting my food, so they would have events at the place. And so I was just like, well, I'm not. I mean, because I don't want any of the bar, obviously, but if I'm bringing groups here and they're having parties here and you're charging them a booking fee, I should get something.
Right.
And it was just not amicable.
Right.
And so I had a girlfriend, Lynn, who does my lashes. She was like, hey, I have a client and she works for a community developer, and they're getting ready to like basically revitalize this part of West Oakland, blah, 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 blah. And they have a space. There's a chef that was going to open a restaurant and he backed out. So there's already a hood there. There's, all the sinks, the bathrooms and everything. You just need to buy your furniture and your equipment and move it in. And I was like, oh, where? And she was like, at the California Hotel. I said, girl, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Because I grew up around the corner. And I was like, do you know what the California Hotel is? I was like, and it has its history. It has amazing history. Oakland itself has amazing history, especially when it comes to music and, and
Oakland is the culture of the Bay Area.
Yeah.
They are.
San Francisco too.
What I'm saying is San Francisco, it has its place, but I think that Oakland has as far as influence, it's the Bay Area. It was the heartbeat of the culture of the Bay Area.
Yeah.
But every city has its own unique identity though. Like San Francisco has their, Richmond has their own, like Vallejo has. But I just think that Oakland was the heartbeat of it when it comes to culture and like just everything.
Yeah.
Bay Area. You just have to say it. It's undeniable.
It's undeniable. I mean, you think about all of the music that's come out of Oakland. God rest Dwayne,
rest in peace, Dwayne Wiggins. That was like, me and my wife we saw them last year when they were I went to the actual Oakland show because I was like, I want to go see Tony in Oakland. Because I never got to see all three of them together. By the time, they weren't, Raphael Sadiq was doing his own thing. So this is the first time in my adult years that they did something together. And that was just and he sang, and when he sang Slow Wine, he put his ensign on the end of the guitar and he got to playing and say, oh man, I was just having a moment.
So
me and my wife, man.
He did a concert for me.
Okay.
At McClellan House.
Okay.
Right when we opened, we were getting ready for festival season. And I had planned intimate small concerts to happen in between the concerts at Blue Note. And that was right
out here in Napa.
Yeah,
okay.
And I know we're fast forwarding, but that's when we started having problems with our neighbor, and we actually got shut down.
Okay.
And so I was like, I have all these people who bought tickets to see Dwayne Wiggins and his guitar, and his carpet. So what am I going to do? And Chilway, being the good friend he is, was like, well, how many people is it? And I was like, probably like 50, because it was supposed to be intimate. And then so he was just like, have it here.
That was during the jazz festival, right? Yeah, I remember that night. Yeah, I remember
and he
that.
was like, have it here. And I was like, okay, you sure? And he was like, yeah. And it was great. I was doing a little cooking in the back. Dwayne and Dory pull up in the bus, and and it was just so dope. And he was just, he's always been super, just a lovely person.
Yeah, didn't he probably wouldn't even remember this, so I don't want to make it sound like I had this. But I was working as a PA assistant for a rap video in Oakland back when I was like in my 20s. My cousin used to do, you know Oliver Sims?
Name sounds familiar.
Yeah. Even like, yeah, that's my cousin. Anyway, he's big in Oakland. He lives in LA now, but he was doing trying to produce these music videos or whatever. And so I was a PA on the set. Go do this, pick that up. I was anybody's been a production assistant. Yeah, exactly. You're like, I'm hungry. Go give me a plate. That's what I was doing. So he was there, but it was Fife Dog was there.
Oh,
and
wow.
then Dwayne was there. And it was a group for I think his name was Denzel from Club Nouveau. It was a group that he was trying to put on.
You're old enough to know about Club Nouveau?
Come on, I just look like this.
Okay, all right, okay. Because I'm like, wait, that's kind of dating back to my my era.
Yeah, come on, man, I just look like this. So he was doing a video for them, and it wasn't for Club Nouveau. The guy Denzel was producing the group. Yeah. And so anyways, I was on the set and I got to meet him, and it was just dope. Like, just seeing there and him and Fife, and they were vibing, and like they're both gone. And I was like, man, I was tripping. I'm not, mind you, I'm like 20, 21. I'm like, man, that's Fife Dog. Like, I'm like
you're all juiced.
Yeah, on my head. Like, yeah. But then I had to bring my inner groupie in. Like, I can't just, what they say, crash out. That's how the young people say. I couldn't just crash out for the, so I was like, man, but that was a dope moment, But back to what we're saying about Oakland and the culture. Like, just like Oakland was like
that
was
it.
It was it, and it just from it's probably I know, and this is no knock to New York, and I know New York gets a lot of when it comes to like music culture and everything, but it's hard to beat what Oakland has done in just all realms of R&B, hip hop, and just the influence, the language, or they would say slanguage, what I mean? Just Oakland is It is it. So it's that culture. So you can just have those dope experiences.
You can have those amazing experiences.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So, I was like, I'm not doing a restaurant at the bottom of the California hotel.
Yeah.
Because as a native,
you knew what was going on.
I lived around the corner. Yeah. I've seen several iterations of life at the California hotel. Like, my Chinese grandmother would be like, I'd be like, I'm going to the store. And she'd be like, go to the one on Adeline. Do not go up to San Pablo. Do not go to Blue Jay Liquors. And I was like, but the ladies are so pretty. I just want to, and they're so nice to me. That's back.
They get you candy, huh? Yeah.
Hold on. That's back when the hoes was fine. They had their hair done. They had nails.
I don't know what those look like.
Well, as a kid growing up around there, you see them. They had.
I don't know what hoes look like.
But like they would have fur coats on.
No, they were fly.
They were fly.
Yeah.
These hoes nowadays wear sweatpants. It's a little different now. You know what I'm saying? It's like puff coats and sweatpants, and you on the corner. I'm like, I don't understand this, but it's not how I grew up, ma'am.
Oh man, bring the fur coats back.
Right.
All right.
But I was just like, hey baby, you coming to get some candy? Yes. What's your name? Leilani. I'm gonna call you Sunshine. I was like, okay. Now go on, here's your candy. Now go on and get back around the corner.
Going back to the house.
And I was like, okay. But I talked to my mom about it. And by now my husband's teasing me like, I told you he was gonna have a restaurant, but you didn't want to listen. So I was just like, forget you. But my mom was like, you have to look at it like this. You get called in certain directions. And this could be your opportunity to go back home and do something big. And I was like, go home? I'm in Oakland. She said, no, you're going to go back to West Oakland and you're going to do something amazing. So we opened Magnolia Street in the beginning of the pandemic. Like
ribbon cutting shut down.
Like we couldn't even get our last inspection.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there and I was like, we can't even open. We can't even open. And then as soon as they said you could do takeout, it was me and one chef and that was it. And we did a different special every day. And we would blast it on social media. I called my friends down at OPD. I called my friends down at Social Security. I'm like, hey, you know, y'all need meals. What do you need? Fire stations. What do you need? You know, we have meals. Just order. Here's today's menu. The longshoremen. Here's today's menu. They would buy everything via Venmo and Cash App and pick a time to come pick it up. And it was like one of the only ways you could get soul food in Oakland during the pandemic. So we killed it in the pandemic.
Out of the trunk.
No, I mean, we were
no, I know.
open.
I'm saying it's that old school saying, like out of the trunk, just right there, just hand to hand,
Just
right
hand
there.
to hand. We would have our little masks on, drop your bag on top of your car, and, you know, off you went. And it was, like I said, we killed it in the pandemic. I'd never owned a restaurant really before, because even when I was at Bricks, it was, you know, I was just cooking and doing plates out the, you know, people come and sit down, have a drink or whatever. So it wasn't really like a for real restaurant.
Right.
I didn't have to pay PG&E. I didn't have to pay.
I didn't have
responsibilities.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I had a full blown restaurant. So as soon as the world opened again, and everybody could go where they couldn't have gone for the past 2 years, our business took a decline.
Okay.
Because now everybody's like, oh, God, I can go back
options.
to crustaceans. You know, I can go back to the thing on, you know, or whatever. And so we fought really hard to create a vibe. And that's where we started becoming known for our brunches. And sometimes it was wild. Sometimes it was wild. And, you know, other times it was really cool. And I did, when we opened that restaurant, I had started learning more about wine. I was coming up here more. I started meeting all these different winemakers, got hooked in with Fern for black vines. And I was like, oh, you know, so at my restaurant, we're only going to carry black wine. So that was dope for a while until it wasn't. Because as we created this vibe and we created this brunch culture, and I will say Magnolia really was the one to launch that brunch culture. I could say that hands down.
It's a big deal now.
Anytime you got grannies twerking on Mother's Day.
Well, that's in Oakland. You can get that.
Yeah. But I was like, I got on the mic. I was like, it's Mother's Day. Do we have to twerk? And they were like,
go jumping on me because I said that now.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. You know, we always had the bomb ass DJs.
Yeah.
You know.
I remember, I didn't go to any, but I remember when they were happening because social media and, you know, and everything else. Like,
and it was wild and it was fun. And until, you know, till my other side kicked in, and then I was just like, I'm good.
You don't like people no more. You stop liking them in the middle of the twerking.
And it wasn't even the people. You know, I have an issue with staff in general.
Okay.
Because I don't want to work with somebody that I'm not cool with.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so what ends up happening is you have employees that take your coolness and your niceness for granted, and then they become real entitled and privileged. And especially with some of our younger people. Yeah. Right? Older people too.
Yeah.
Don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
You know, but what ends up happening is that the respect that an employer and an employee has disappears.
Yeah. The lines get blurred.
The lines get blurred or just
go.
Blatantly crossed over. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it just got to a point then we had all these different restaurants opening that were trying to emulate what we were doing. And then that's where you have the issue of, well, I don't really want to go to underneath the California Hotel. Her food is good, but you know, I don't want to be in West Oakland. You know what I mean? Location.
Right.
So then that became an issue, and I was just like, you know, I'm good. So I made the decision to close the restaurant. And my husband was like, well, what are you going to do now? And I was like, you know what? I think I want to do something with this wine thing. And he was like, oh, okay, do you.
You got a good husband. Shout out to the good husbands. Shout out to the good men that just let their wives just do them. You know what I mean?
You know. You already know.
Oh, man.
But, you know, it was because I started learning more about wine.
It becomes kind of intoxicating when you first.
Right.
Yeah,
I
that's how it
mean,
was for me.
you start out in the Safeway buy 6 and get 30% off aisle at Safeway. And then the next thing you know, you're slamming down $125, $300 bottle of wine like with a steak, and you're like, damn, that's good.
Man, it's like, yeah, I always make the joke. I started off, you could have handed me a bottle of Barefoot about 5 years ago, and I wouldn't
Okay, I'm gonna spank you.
The Taka Vodka of wine. You know, you don't know the Taka Vodka? I remember one day this guy was like, man, that's wino liquor.
That's like
But that's all the money I had to afford.
Alcohol.
Yeah,
That's like rubbing alcohol.
Yeah.
But it was, I wanted to create another space. And I think that's what my calling has been all this time, is to create these spaces. To create a place like Magnolia where you could be you and twerk for French toast or chicken and waffles if you wanted to, or you knew that you could bring your grandfather in there for a 95th birthday party, and that you were going to get good food. And, I'm always pretty personable, even though I don't really like a lot.
You nice.
I'm okay.
You nice.
I'm all right. Some people don't like me.
Till the
it's
camera
okay.
goes off.
He gonna get cussed out later probably. But I wanted to create a space where we were welcome. And all this came about after the whole thing about them sisters getting kicked off the wine train. And I was just like, going to festival, coming up here for festivals, coming up here for Blue Note and stuff like that. And I said, they'll take our money all day, but they don't want us to stay. There were no black businesses out here. Mr. Buster's in Calistoga was the only black business here in the valley. And even now, so Brown was the first here. Then you got Uncle Jay down the way on Kaiser, Jay Moss. But there was nothing here.
Yeah, in Napa proper.
Napa proper. And it's just like, but we always up here.
Yeah.
And mind you, we might, I think wine as a journey is just now starting to happen for us. So that's why at our tasting room, we have something for everybody. I hate sweet wine, but we have some for you. But I am definitely going to try to get you up off of that, by the time you leave. You know what I'm saying? So, but it was like I was like, it's going to be hard because at the end of the day, Napa has always been white. And we're not talking rich, influential white. I mean, now we are.
Yeah. But
we got a Walmart. So that in itself shows you what Napa used to be. And then a lot of people don't know, too, there was a lot of slave transactions going on here. McClellan House actually sits on top of slave quarters.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where Chilway is building the speakeasy or whatever he's doing down there, and he's creating a different space down there for the guests. Those were the slave quarters.
Wow.
So you have this history. I mean, the Napa Historical Society can tell you all about that history.
I know about that. Yeah. I've had people tell me. I just never went to go look at it, but I've heard I've heard detailed stories about it. And
I think too, so for me, I was just like, well, we like wine. I mean, I know I love wine.
Yeah.
I knew a couple Black Psalms, and I was just like, what do you think if I opened a space for us that highlighted our wine, but I didn't just want it to be black wine, but it's like being a chef, right? So being a chef or being in cooking has always been dominated by men, by white men. And now we have all these beautiful Black chefs, Latino chefs, Asian chefs, women and men that are killing the game.
There's a guy I saw on what's the Netflix show, Chef's Table. He's in New York, Kwame. And he's about to open up a spot in Vegas now too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, oh man, I'm going to New York in a couple of months, and I actually sent him a DM. I'm gonna chop this up so he can see it.
I love it.
But I'm going to. I'm gonna make a booking. I'm like, when I go to New York, me and my wife are like, what do you want to do this time? I'm like, I'm going to that
there.
restaurant.
Yeah.
Like I'm going there. Right.
His story is so dope.
It is.
And I think,
it is.
I think that's one of the things that makes us who we are and why we do the things we do is our story. Right. So if you talk to Chef Nelson, he'll tell you all about his story about being Dominican and, you know, being raised around food. And, you know, he's gotten James Beard nods and, you know, he's amazing. And he's just a brother. Like, that is like my brother. I love him to death. I was texting him the other day and I was like, I got some wine you need to try. And he was just like, bring it when you would bring it, You know, you look at chefs like Chef Sean Street at Lita. We've done a couple things together, and like I love being in that community, but I love those people for their stories.
Yeah.
And that's what draws out their creativity that is shown on the plate.
You know, as you're talking, it's making me think about something because I just brought up Chef Kwame and his story about when he opened up those restaurants. And just one food critic came in there and wrote and how he had to go through that. He went through it twice. Yep. And then on the third time, the guy wrote him a good review. And it's kind of upsetting. I had this conversation about Barry Bonds yesterday with someone that I know. And I was like, I asked him, I said, why are sports writers the gatekeepers to Hall of Fame? Like, who created that, right? And so he's a little bit older gentleman, and he's in the sports, so he was telling me the whole story. But one of the things that I hated about that is because when I saw that Kwame story, it was like the same thing, like all the work and the stuff he went through, and somebody can just write something and just like try. But and so for him to be where he is now, having a restaurant, about to open one up in Vegas, and like really, it's. And I was gonna say this to bring this to you, is that I don't like people. That's a good thing that you stand strong, because you coming here in this space and opening up something, it's not for the weak.
It is not.
And somebody somebody like as your personality and very upfrontness and like very low tolerance for bullshit is what's needed, right?
I mean, so a lot of people know and a lot of people don't know, right? We actually opened Vin and Noir in May of 2023.
Okay.
And we were immediately shut down. Our neighbor across the street started stalking our social media, started stalking Eventbrite, and made a complaint to the city and to ABC about how I was trying to hold large-scale events, and I don't know where. I don't know when you say large scale, I can only fit 40 people in my place, and then we're rubbing shoulders, you know. But the complaint was so blatantly racist. And it was like her and her following are not compatible with the residents of Napa. So I'm like, well, if you didn't want to be around, that's what the complaint said.
Okay. Wow.
Like, she wrote that.
Yeah.
And the fact that the city and ABC accepted that complaint and shut me down pending investigation says a lot about the dynamics here in the Valley. And so when you look at like Chef Kwame's story about being depressed and, you know, off of this review and business falls and, you know, et cetera, for me, it was heartbreaking. I had closed my restaurant. I haven't worked a real job since 2019. You know, when I left Kaiser, and it was just like, what am I going to do? I've spent $100,000 on this space, and I can't have not one single person in here. And it was to the point where we had to basically shut everything down, and I had to stop coming here because I was getting into a space and in my head and in my heart, like, this can't be like, I don't understand this. Because up until then, we had no problems. Right. But I didn't realize the little angels that were around me making it so that there weren't problems. Like my contractor, John Uhl, he's amazing. And I remember I was like, well, what do I need to do? I'll go down to the city. And he goes, no. No, you're not going to the city. I'll go to the city.
He's in Napa?
He's in Napa.
Okay.
He's a non-melanated person.
Okay.
And he was like, no, babe girl. no. I'll go to the city, okay? And you just get your wine and stuff together.
Yeah, do you. Yeah.
You do you. And I think that's a theme with men and me. And it's like gone and just gone. So I didn't realize that he was doing that to protect me. Because probably if they would have seen me coming down there, I would have had a lot more problems from the beginning.
Right.
So I had to stop coming up here because there was a day where I saw the neighbor who filed the complaint, and I just wanted to talk to her and find out, like, why would you try to shut down a woman business? What is this BS about? We're smoking weed and cigars outside. Like, you're making up stuff, you know, that the sound is so deafening and, you know, we're making so much noise. And it's just like, dude, my space is soundproofed. So what are you talking about? Our whole building is soundproof. You know, all you're really going to hear is the from the music. So 5 months of going back and forth with the city, with ABC, with my attorneys, like, and it was getting to a space where I was like, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to be out of myself. And that's when my husband was like, you can't go. You just stay here. Stay home and let it, you know, it'll all work out. If it's what God wants you to do, it'll work out. So I was like, okay.
That's 2 points for the husband.
Hella points for the husband. And really, he's the one that kept me out of jail.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't understand this.
Yeah. And back to cultural differences, right? It's this. I just want to talk to you. Can we have a conversation? Maybe because there are things that could get handled through a conversation, and then we could just move forward. Doesn't mean we walk away friends, but we just want to talk. But sometimes it looks as aggression.
Oh yeah, she hopped in her car.
Yeah,
she hopped in her car and drove to the police station.
Yeah. So but that just sounds like somebody that was, you know, maybe full of antics, and I don't know the person. Don't want to. Those are the words that you're saying. I don't know the person, but what I'm trying to say is that, you know, we have a different way of handling things, and just because we're face to face does not mean that we're violent. Right. And that's the point that I'm trying to get at. Like, we just come from a place where, man, such and such was in. Well, I'm gonna go ask them. You know what I mean? Or somebody, hey man, I bust myself out. I tell a true story when I was in high school, and there's this girl I liked, and I was talking. I was like trying to talk to her, but she was, you know, how y'all girls, there's another guy that they weren't dating, but they were like talking, you know, and I think my words were kind of, man, when I look back, I was kind of being a hater, you know what I mean? See, that's a side people don't never want to admit. They act like they've done everything perfect 100% of the way, and that ain't true. I was kind of hating, and so, man, dude got wind of it, man, he called me. I never forget, called me on the phone, and I was like, you know, the thing was, I wasn't trying to like act like I'm gonna fight him or nothing like that. Right. It was just kind of, and he was like, man, what's up, man? He was like, man, you didn't. And he like, you know, he checked me like a player though, you know. He was like, and I was like, man, you right, you know what I mean? And so, sorry. Yeah, I ain't say sorry, but I was like, you right, you know what I mean? And it wasn't even like on some, I'm gonna come fight you, beat you up. I was like, man, I heard such and such and such, like that's, you know what I mean? That's how we, and I was like, yeah, you right. You know, but the point being is that's how we were raised. Like, there's something going on. We want to talk. We don't have to do all this paying other people money and losing money. We can just talk. You know, go down to agencies and stuff. We can just talk. And if we can't do that, that's just basic. That's just where we come from. You know. And so I get it. I get what you're saying. So,
but I will tell you, God is funny. God is real funny. He has a great sense of humor. So I'm still catering because at this point, that's all I can do. All I can do is cater. My shop is closed. My restaurant's closed. So I'm catering. And I get a call from an old bartender that worked with me at the first restaurant. And she said, hey, are you still catering? And I said, yeah. And she goes, my company just moved into a new space in the city. We have the first 2 floors, and the people who own the building are on the top floor.
Here in Napa?
In San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco. Okay.
And so I said, sure. She was like, we need, because they're AI. She was like, we need breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 200 people for 5 days. And I said, okay. So get there the first day, set up, we're going. And the security guard comes to me and he goes, "Is that your car in the parking lot?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "The management says you have to move your car." And I was like, "Well, I'm in the president's space." And he was like, "No, your car can't be in here. That's what the facilities people say upstairs." And I was like, "Okay." My client comes to me and she says, "Hey, the owners of the building are tripping. You have your insurance?" I said, "Baby, if I ain't got nothing else,
I got some
insurance." And so she was just like, "Can you just do the rider and all that stuff?" I was like, "Sure." So I said, "Who does the rider need to go to?" So she tells me the name. By now, I know all about our neighbor. I know where she works. I know where she was born, where she was raised. I know her husband's name. I know her kid's name. I know her mama's name. I know everything. And I'm looking at the text that has the company's name on it. And it's the neighbor. It's the company where the neighbor works.
Wow.
And so I'm in the building with the neighbor who shut my business down for 5 days.
So she was at the event?
She was upstairs.
She was upstairs. What? Oh, wow. So how
I was like, what is going on? Really? Are you trying to see if I'm going to act out? Because I be acted up. So are you sure? Are you sure? And that lady tried. So for me, and she's telling my client, like, yeah, and if we don't have it by the end of the day, they can't come back. And my client's like, check this out. Like, no, we've paid her large sums of money. We have people here from all over the world.
Right.
So you got what you needed, blah, 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 blah. So for me, I'm like, so you fooling with my money in Napa, and now you trying to F with my money on a whole different business? Because she knew my car because I have personalized license plates.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? This is it. I'm done. I called my attorney. We called ABC and we were like, let's just go to trial. And she's like, the ABC person was like, that's going to take months. And I said, I've been shut down for 5 months.
Yeah.
3 more months. So let your complainant know that we're going to trial. Also let her know that we're going to sue her. And we're suing her civilly because loss of business, loss of wages, loss of employee wages, stress, I can't sleep with my husband. Like, I'm all anxious and blah, blah, blah. She was like, I'll call you back. I said, okay. 2 hours later, she called me back. She's like, well, Miss Baugh, we have the rescinded complaint in our hand. We just need to work on a couple of things. So we need to talk about timing and, what time you can be closed and blah, 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 blah. But the complainant has rescinded her initial complaint.
Wow.
And as long as we can get these things worked out, you should have your license back. And I was like, thanks. And
this was 2023?
That was 2023. And then we opened November 24th, 2023. We reopened.
Right. Wow. What a journey. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Wow. That's, I'm like dumbfounded right now. Just you went through that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years ago. And, what's so interesting, you talked about even in that whole time, you said your allies, your angels working for you, right? There were people that, in the same area, there was the same people working for your good as there were some others trying to work against you, right? And that's just life, right? And so I always talk about, how nice it is and how welcoming and how, it is and it can be. There are a lot of people, but then you still have those incidents that are still happening, and it's, and listen, nobody likes progress.
Nope.
Most people that's why I don't go to the gym, because I don't, once my body gets sore, I don't want to keep going, right? It's not that I don't like progress. What I'm saying is progress is hard for people to digest.
In the Peloton. I have a whole Peloton.
Yeah. Progress is hard for people to digest. And so, or change even, and so that's why when I introed you, I had all those great things you broke down barriers and doors, because you see that even with the influx of like the jazz festival that Dave Chappelle and them had, and Robert Glasper, right? And you just see this influx of people coming, and you see every week I'm downtown, you just see more and more. And it's not, to be honest, it's not like just a black thing. Like, yes, we're the noticeable ones,
right.
but you're just seeing more and more people from all over,
Yeah.
Be in Napa, like coming and experiencing, tasting food, like the Italian restaurants and, your space, and you have State Line, and you have all these, and there's all this variety. And every time I work at the barbershop, right? So every time somebody comes in here and they're like, we want where can I find this? Where they're looking for variety.
Right.
They're looking for, not just,
not just run of the mill.
Run of the mill. Yeah, they really are looking for variety. And so it's great that you're here and you're doing what you're doing, because you're part of the variety. You're part of the change. And you're part of the renaissance that's happening. It's literally, we're literally walking in it right now. And I just think it's awesome. So what are some exciting things that you have done since been opening, after going through all that? How has that journey been from then? It's about a year and some change now, right? What's been going on?
Well, it's been very interesting, right? Because we are the only collective down here that serves nothing but minority and female winemakers, right? So there's variety for you, right? So I don't have my own wine yet, so I'm not like a lot of the tasting rooms, because that was one of the things. Is like, what was going to make us different from the other 100 tasting rooms down here? And it was because of what we serve, and the fact that I'm a chef. So there's always food things happening, which is a lot of fun. But it, as a business owner, I had already lost 5 months worth of time, right? So, and during that time, that was the biggest travel time of the season. So when we opened, we literally opened in winter.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
The day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday.
Yeah.
That was on purpose. Not the black that you guys are thinking. Ain't got nothing to do with shopping. But we opened it, once again, I'm opening a business in a time where it's not busy. It's not busy. And so it takes like, we're just now gaining our momentum, right? There have been many weekends where no one's come in because we are on a side street, and I like it and I don't like it. Yeah. Right. I like it because you have to intentionally be coming to our space, which I like. You know what I mean? And so you have to intentionally be coming to our space. And I don't like it because we are on the side street. So we're not a part of the entertainment district. Right. And these are things I didn't know.
You don't get a lot of the foot traffic.
Because had I had known that the entertainment district stopped at Clinton, I would have took the space on Clinton. Okay. Instead of one street over. Yeah. Then I wouldn't have had the issues that I had with the neighbor, because it's all commercial. Right. But I digress. It's fine. I love our space. It's wonderfully designed. It's beautiful. It's comforting. But what has been the best part for me is people love being there. They're not. I mean, we're not at a place yet where we have to rush you out. Right. So you have people that come in there and they're just catching up with their girlfriend. You have people that are coming in there to work. Hey, Leilani, is it okay? I got a meeting. Yeah, go in the small room, have you a glass of wine. And, it's a cool space. Yeah. And I think that what's the most exciting and most joyous thing for me is that I would say 98% of the people that leave there are like, we coming back, girl, and we bringing friends. We bringing friends. And they always say, I felt so like I was able to be me. So you will have, you might walk by and see the AKAs, doing their little dance. You might see some Kappas doing a little stroll or whatever.
And people love to make their content too. Like, hey, we're here, and they're doing their content, different things. So and that's how we do. That's how we do our.
That's how we do it. And I will say that the majority of our customers, as of late, are travelers. So that means that the word is getting out that there is a space. I mean, we love our friends at Brown. So, we're always sending people there. They send people to us. Even with the, my guys at Housley, because when you leave one space, you're like, where else can we go?
Where else can we go?
Yeah. And it's just like, well, now that now that we're there, the guys at Housley are like, if you want to go somewhere really cool, go around the corner. you know, because they have their own vibe. We have our own vibe, but it just, the support from the people who are like, you know, I so and so told me to come here. Oh, my friend came here. She had a birthday party here last year. You know, I want to have my birthday here. You know, and then every time we have a brunch, I always ask, how many of you have never been here? And it's normally like 3/4 of the room have never been there.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of the people that do come have been to the restaurant, so they know me, or, you know, or whatever the case may be. And then the fact that we have wine that is approachable in taste, quality, and price, and we can educate and we can talk to people about why you shouldn't have Riesling with pasta and lobster, you know, stuff like that, right? I think that's just having the idea to make Vin someplace that we could be us, because they not like us, they not like us. Yeah. So where we could be us and feel free to not have to be quiet or not laugh so loud or, you know, not get up and, you know, shake a tail feather to a good song. Right. We have people doing sing-alongs, you know, because our playlist apparently is like the bomb.
It is. It's a really good playlist. Yeah.
You know, and so I love seeing that, because that means that what I set out to do, I'm doing, you know, until the wind blows and I'm like, all right.
Yeah. There's some, yeah. I feel the same way. I feel like when I moved out here and I was cutting, my buddy, he called me like, hey, I'm opening a shop 2021. It was like right when things were opening up. He was like, he told me in 2020, but he's like, I'm opening a shop. I want you to come. I want you. And I was like, Napa? But I did it. Well, here's the thing. I actually did it before I came. He was at a different place and I went and I stayed for like a year and then I left back. Cause I had that thing, like, it's almost like, you know, let's just be honest, right? It's hard for Black people to be in non-majority Black places, right? And let's take all the negative reasons why. It's just connection.
Right.
It has nothing to do
with... Who
do
I connect with?
Yeah, right. It doesn't have to be the bad stories or it's because this is like, because nothing bad happened to me. You know what I mean? It was just like, I was working here, but I wasn't living here. But then I was like thinking about it and then I went back and a few things transpired. But at the end of the day, it was like, you just want to be around. Like, so when I came out here this time, I actually moved here. But that was because from the time that I worked here before, I actually used to come out and come to certain events and do certain things. And over the years, I was like, oh, no, it's cool. I really like it. And then I'm getting older. And so the things that were around here, I was appreciating more. The food and the wine. And like you're talking about the addictiveness of it is just like, man, like I could be right there. I could live there. And so I did it. And like, I didn't have a story like what you had, right? I didn't have that. But I've heard it happen to many a times, right? And I'm not saying that I haven't had any incidents. I'm saying it wasn't as blatant as what you went through,
right?
And so
show stopping,
you know
what I mean?
Right? And show stopping, right? But I think as men we handle things differently as well. So I don't know but regardless of the fact is that I just think that what you've done and what you're doing is so groundbreaking, and it needs to be applauded, and it needs to be, and somebody needs to tell you thank you. I was talking to when we were at the Women in Wine event yesterday, and you know I'm talking to this young brother, these two dudes from Michigan that came out here and they're going to the college and they're doing the harvest and they're and I told them, I said, hey, you guys don't take this moment and just think it's just another event. I was like, what you're doing, there's going to be 10 years from now, there's going to be way more people doing this. I grew up 15 minutes from here. I would have never thought to go become a sommelier or to be a winemaker. The information wasn't there. Nobody in our community even talked like that.
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like that was, I might as well be speaking Cantonese to me. You know what I mean? And so these things that we're doing by me coming to the barbershop, a Black guy cutting hair in Napa, everybody be like, you heard Napa? The black people cut. I'm like, no, most of my clientele ain't black. You know what I mean? But
they need their haircut.
Yeah, they need their haircut, right? But this is what we have to do as people. We have to stop making excuses and just go enter into spaces and walk in those spaces as if you belong there. Cause can't nobody stop it, you know what I mean? And
Nope.
and you have to let stuff sometimes roll off your shoulder, like, you know what I mean? But cause we do it with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got stuff going on with each other as a people and stuff. We let it roll off our shoulder. You know what I mean?
I mean, interesting enough, like if I see her, I'd be like, hey, and she just looks, and I'm like, how you doing? I talk to her husband all the time. You know, and it's just like, we're done. That section is done. That part of life is done. So we can move on now. Like, and you know, I'm up in these Napa streets, like all the, like I
be seeing you. We be tugging corners. I'll be like,
it's so cool though. Like, you know, I'll walk into like Scala or something, and they're like, hey chef, you know, and I'm like, oh, hey, you know, or I was where was I was at Oxbow. And this lady kept following me around. And I was like, how you doing? And she was like, are you Chef Leilani? A little white lady. I was like, yes. And she's like, I saw you on Beat Bobby Flay, and I'm really mad that you didn't wear it. And I'm like, thank you so much.
We just skipped over all that. Yeah, we just skipped over that part of your journey. But yeah, there's a lot of dope stuff you've done. A lot of dope stuff. Yeah.
At the end of the day, I have to say, I live a damn good life.
Yeah.
There's always struggles.
Yeah.
You know, there are always struggles, personal struggles, you know, physical struggles because I'm getting older, you know, business struggles. But really, I'm blessed. You know, I'm currently living not without, you know, I have a great kid. Well, I have 3 great kids. You know, I sit back sometimes in my little space, you know, either after we're closed or before we open. And I'm just like, wow, this is the shit.
Yeah, it is.
This is the shit. This is the life.
And that's what I want. That's what I want people to know. Like, it's like you come here and just have a great time.
Man, if my son didn't want to go to school where he wants to go to school,
yeah,
we'd be moving.
Yeah.
So, you know, but he's just like, he's like, yeah, so you can move. But I'm not moving.
I'm not moving. Yeah.
I have a hard enough time getting up at 7 to go to you know, middle school. And now you want me to get up at 5 to be able to beat the traffic. But yeah, it's a great place, you know, and I love seeing us. You know, and it's crazy because I am the person, if I see a black person on the street walking by, I will come out and be like, hey, did you know? Come on in here. Are you wine tasting? Oh, yeah, we're wine tasting. Come on over here real quick. Oh, we have an appointment. Blah, blah. No problem. Here's our card. You know, we carry, this is what we carry. And 9 out of 10, they'll come back.
They'll come back,
Yeah.
So with what you do, you highlight women's wine. We brought this here. I thought we was going to sip and talk, but the conversation got so good. No, it was so good. I'm not even mad. It's the way it's supposed to go. But you did bring a brand today.
I did.
And do you want to highlight any brands that you carry at your shop, the women, or just a couple? I know I don't want anybody to get mad if you don't say their name. But
man, if I don't say your name, sorry. So at Vin and Noir, we kill everything every quarter. I don't say kill it, but sorry, I shouldn't say kill. But we basically wipe everything out every quarter.
Okay.
So that means we wipe out the wine, we wipe out the bubbles, we wipe out the art and the menu. And we replace it with something fresh. So you could come for visitors, you could come 4 times a year, and 9 out of 10, you're going to have a different experience. You're going to see different art on the walls. You're going to taste a different deviled egg that I decided to make, and there's different wine. And that's been an amazing part of the journey too, is meeting these winemakers and, being able to support small batch businesses. We don't do big box. There's maybe 2 that we carry, and they're women winemakers. But for the most part, the stuff that you're going to get from us, you're not going to be able to find in Total Wine and More. You're not going to be able to find it, at Safeway. because although we do want our brands to blow up and get to those places, we cap it off. So once you go into, an example would be a really cool chick has a wonderful wine, and we were getting ready to carry her, but she got a contract for Total Wine and More.
Okay.
So we can't, the way that my program works at the tasting room is once you become big box, we're glad for you. We're hella supportive.
Yeah.
I have it at home.
Yeah.
But because we highlight these small batch makers,
Right.
That's our jam. So always something very interesting. I didn't even know there were Chinese winemakers.
Wow.
And so we have an amazing selection of Chinese wines. One of that, which I poured and made you fall in love with yesterday, the Petite Syrah by Appalachian Cellars.
What's the Petite Syrah by Appalachian Cellars?
Yes.
That was so good.
Now she'll be in the tasting room next weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure to remind me. Let me know.
Yeah. We're doing a food and wine pairing. I mean, and this one is Roman Clark. Tia Clark is the wine business owner, and she created the brand to be able to pretty much have a legacy for her family, and she really liked wine.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of wines that are not from either here in the valley or like in Livermore, or
in the
California
California
Appalachians, right?
Do you any Paso Robles, anything, or?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Love Paso.
I love their wine too.
I love their wine too. And so I did an event. I did the black. What is it called? It was a Black Wine Festival by the Hughes Society.
Okay.
In D.C. last year, D.C., Maryland, because it was at the Harbor, so half D.C., half Maryland. And I met some amazing winemakers there. And then I got to know some people from the Maryland Wine Association. And so he came to me and he was like, hey, I have all these Black brands that I want you to try. And, so he sent me like 2 cases of wine for me to try. And so Roman Clark, the sparkling rosé, is one of the 2 that we chose out of that batch. And so that's the other thing too, is that, we have people that come to us all the time. They're like, hey, I want you to try my wine and stuff like that. We have a very different profiles. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We don't really carry a lot of white labels, like I told you earlier. We like the creativity. We like the hands-onness by winemakers, because their passion and their love for wine shows. You can taste it.
Yeah.
You can taste it. So Yvonne, who does the Petite Syrah, like, she's on it. Like, she's just like, how did it go? It's like 6:00 this morning. I was like, hello. She's just like, was it well received? And I was like, of course it's well received. We can't even keep it on the shelf. And so, but who knew that there were Chinese winemakers? We have really good relationships with our Latino winemakers. So we have a fun Loteria and Paella party coming up in May. Like, we're just here to build experiences and to have a good time.
Yeah.
So what I love about this sparkling rosé is that it's really crisp. It's very, like fruity. So you're going to taste some strawberries pour some. Yeah. And it's not super sweet because, like I said, I don't do sweet. But it has enough sweetness for our folks who do like sweet wine. There's enough sweetness in it that they're like, okay. And then you take that and you say, so this is what I would eat with this. Or I have people, I'll say, what would you eat with this?
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
To all your secret desires. There better not be no secrets either. I'm tell on you.
It is good. I like that.
And you see, it's got sweetness to it, but
yeah, it's not overpowering.
It's not overpowering. It's more like fruity. And with this one, I know it sounds crazy. So with this one, I really like. I do a blanc de blanc shrimp and grits. So it's not the Creole shrimp. I use garlic, white wine, and hella butter. And hella butter. And I put that. This is the perfect complement to it.
Okay.
Because it's savory grits. I don't put cheese in my grits. Just FYI for you people who don't eat cheese.
Yeah,
but
no.
there's enough butter and cream in there to kill a cow. So
No, this is amazing. This is amazing. So she's from DC.
she's actually from Maryland.
She's from Maryland. Okay, from Maryland. Okay, all right. Cool.
And then we carry the Vidal Blanc from Narciso wine. And they're in Maryland as well. And they're two Nicaraguan sisters.
Okay.
Yeah. So and they all have stories,
And are these
and I love it.
These are all people you met in the last
Year and a half.
year and a half?
Yeah.
Wow. So these are just all these. So you're just becoming like this conduit for.
That's what we're trying to
do. It's yeah. I can see that. Yeah, and I like that once you say that once you get to the big you sign your big deal and doing your thing.
It's time to it's time to pull up.
Yeah, it's time to pull up. Yeah, because it's like thank you but I think that you create a unique market where people know they can come when hey, if you want to get your wine seen in Napa and you are it's just all women only, correct?
No. It's minority winemakers and women winemakers.
Minority winemakers, okay.
And women winemakers.
And women winemakers, right. So, yeah, if you want to get your wine seen here in the Valley, you've become that conduit. And I think it's going to do nothing but continue to grow because every year, just like how you said you didn't know there was Chinese winemakers, like when I was at the barbershop for harvest every year, these guys come in right before harvest and right after harvest. Yeah. They don't get their haircut.
You don't see them during harvest.
But it's an influx of them that come in. It's like every year, and there's Australia, it's Korea, it's China, they're Japan, they're India. They're just coming from everywhere, Italy, and they're just all over. And so, but I'm seeing more and more domestic black people come, like winemakers from Michigan and New York and just all over the place to come do harvest here because now they're taking this because wine is so big. And like you say, it's new to us, and we're still in the infancy stages of wine and how we consume it, where we consume it. It's just all those different things.
And there's a network.
Yeah.
There's definitely a network. So you do have like AAAV, right? Which is the African American Association of Vintners. Angela McCrae is the current sitting.
I met her. Yeah, I met her. She's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have but like a lot of things, there's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of gatekeeping. There's a lot of cliques. And I'm real vocal. So I'm quick to say, I guess my invitation got lost in the fucking mail.
Yeah.
I mean, what? I didn't even know that you guys were getting together. And as a Black Chinese girl, one thing that has been consistent in my life is I'm either not Black enough for the Black people, and then I'm not Chinese enough for the Chinese people.
Talk about it.
But having this opportunity here, there's been a lot of clarity. So, we were talking about brown earlier, and I had an original opinion outside of the wine is good. I had an original opinion about how they moved. Right? Because I'm only a quarter Black, but I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
I'm hella Black, right? Like I told the lady
you hella
online.
Black?
Well, so okay, I digress. So let me tell you a quick story.
No. Finish it.
Okay.
Finish it.
Okay, but I was just like, I don't understand why you guys don't do the Black wine festivals. What's that all about? And it's like, well, we have a small, we're a small group, and in my head, I'm just like, do you not want to celebrate your Black? Like, what is it? Like, right? And it was just like, no, it's just that, certain opportunities are cool for us and and some aren't. And it's funny because I did an event at Brown. I did an event at Brown headquarters. And I was just sitting there and I was really thinking, and I was like reflecting on, we were cleaning up. So I do a lot of reflecting when we're cleaning up. And I was thinking about a lot of the things that I've gone through in trying to get people like, hey, you have a wine. It should be in my shop.
Right.
But at the same time, it's just like, my mom's like, why are you begging people to let you spend your money with them? Because remember, at the end of the day, I'm buying the wine from you, and I was just like, well, I'm trying to give people opportunities. And she's just like, but if they don't want the opportunity, baby, that's on them.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment, and I started thinking about all the opportunities I've tried to give, or relationships that I used to have that I don't really have anymore. Because if we want to really be real, a lot of us have the thought process of, you should be lucky that I'm even entertained. Like, you should want my wine there, or, you know, like, you should feel privileged that I make a wine, and, you know, it versus, hey, Leilani, I want my wine in your shop because this is dope what you're doing.
Right.
And I want to be a part of that.
Right.
It's more of the, you know, we as a people, we do business. Some of us do business really well, and some of us do business not so great, right? And so over the past over the past year, as I look at certain relationships that I've had in trying to get people up here and stuff like that, I don't understand. And that's the soft part of me, because I'm like, well, did I do something? Like, I don't understand. Why wouldn't you want?
So are you saying that dealing with us has been some of the hardest to deal with in getting clients to put their wine into your shop? Like, because you are like Black focus, they don't want to do that. Is that kind of?
No.
I don't. Okay, I don't want to misquote you.
I don't have any problems getting Chinese winemakers to put their wine in there. I don't have a problem with the Latinos trying to put their wine in there. You know, we were gonna like highlight Filipino wine, like. But if you were to come into my shop right now, we carry 2 Black wines out of 36.
Right.
And to me, that's an issue. And so me being me, I kind of internalize things like, well, have I done something? Like, what have I done something? What did I do wrong? You know, I'm talking to my therapist, and she's just like, child, don't worry about those people.
Yeah.
You just keep doing what you're doing and everything will be cool. But I think that as a whole, sometimes it's hard to do business with each other, and it shouldn't be. You know, I love Uncle Nearest has a saying, we climb and we pull. So that's always been my focus. Like I give chefs opportunities. I give, you know, I can't be everywhere all at one time. So I know your food is hella good, so I'm gonna refer my client to you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, or, you know, I you need me to dog sit. I mean, you know, I'm like really try to be that person or that auntie you can go to and be like, hey, auntie, what do you think about this? You know, can you help me with this? I want to teach. I want to pull people with me, you know, and it's a heavy load sometimes. Right now, it's not a load because ain't nobody trying to climb the mountain with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so when I first opened Vin, one of our winemakers, his name is Marcus Johnson. He's out of DC. And he was just like, you are the first, you are the spearhead, you are the catalyst. And I was like, I don't want to be all that.
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to have a dope place for people to come and drink dope wine. That's it. And he was like, no, but you have to understand, this is heavy. Like, this is seriously, you are an innovator and blah, 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 blah. And over the past year, I've learned that being the first, being the only, that shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It holds no weight.
Say it.
Especially amongst us. It holds no weight. You know, and I think that if we were more of a community like when you and I were growing up, where we are climbing and pulling versus opposite, pulling people down, you know, or being prideful or being arrogant, you know, I think that we could take the world by storm. Because we got something good, because everybody want to be like us. So, you know, obviously we're out here sparkling gold all the time, you know, but I think when I was realizing these things while I was washing dishes at Brown, I was like, I get it. I get why they are exclusive with their time and their brand and their space and their headspace. I get it. Deneen, I get it. Chris, I get it. And for me, it's just like, I'm 53, or I'm about to be 53. This year and moving forward, it's all about, it's not necessarily, I'm a fool with you how you fool with me, but it is I'm still going to be me. So I'm still going to try to help and stuff like that. But if you don't want it, I'm cool. Because there's somebody else out there that needs it and wants it.
You know what? We're going to end on that one. Because there was a lot of game that you just said in this last. They're going
to be mad.
No, they're going to be mad. You ain't got to worry about none of that. Who's mad at what you just said? And there's going to be people who just heard that who ain't going to be able to digest it because they just haven't lived long enough to have enough. Then there's the folk, but everybody who's going to watch this and hear this who can understand that, you just said a lot, and we're going to end on that. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm just like...
Thanks for listening to me babble on and on.
No, you killed it. You killed it. Ratings are going to go through the roof.
Come on, million. Come on, million.
We're going through the roof. Thank you, Chef Leilani.
Thank you,
Leilani. Leilani Baugh. And shout out to your husband. I'm going to give that man some pride. I want to meet that man, and I want to shake his hand.
You'll meet him probably next month sometime.
For allowing you to be dope. For letting you be dope and doing the things. And I know he is a backbone in your house.
And he doesn't drink, so
he don't drink?
We always have a DE.
Oh, okay. Well, he really need to roll in.
He really need to come on, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to your husband, man. I just love to hear these stories about, just couples who are, who can been through these journeys. And it's encouraging for people. They need to hear just the whole story. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for
We love
having
you.
Me.
I love you. And thank you for, even when we first met, you just were a vibe. Like, that's why I'm like, okay, everybody knows, but if like you meet her and you just be yourself and you're cool, you're cool. I never, I've seen you from a distance do your thing, but I've never, you never did it to me. So I love it. And we love you. Me and my wife, we love you. And
I love you guys too.
I look forward to so many more like just dope things we're going to be doing together. I think this is the beginning of something real big.
We're going to have a good time.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for watching.
We'll
see you on the next episode of Meet Me in Podcast. You can follow me on all socials, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Meet Me in Napa Podcast. All right. See you next time.
Ciao.